Hey, travel brats. Happy Tuesday and welcome back. Today we're back with expert travel planner, Erin Morgenthal. Hey, Erin, welcome back.
Hi.
So today I want to talk with you all about family travel and featured trips. So, Erin, what in your opinion are the best ways to travel as a family?
Oh, I mean, there's merits to all types of travel, right?
Right.
I think it just depends on your family dynamic and where your kids are at. Cruises are easy because they have, well, all inclusives too. They have kids clubs, which are so welcome.
Right.
The ability to pass your kids off for even a few hours to enjoy your partner's company or even some alone time is very appreciated. Um, but I think that they all offer the opportunity to experience new things and explore new places. Um, there's theme parks all over the world now, so you can combine a trip to, like, I'm going to take my daughter to Paris next July, and I think that we are going to hit Disneyland Paris while we're there for a day just because we're there, so why not?
Why not?
But if I mean, I always recommend with families, if you haven't traveled with your kids, if you haven't traveled as a family, then start small and work your way up. Find their threshold. Every kid has their threshold for what they're going to be able to tolerate when it comes to travel.
Right. And where would you say is the best spot to cruise, in your opinion, with your family or with little kids?
Uh, with with little kids, I would probably stick to a Caribbean sailing or a Bermuda sailing, just because they're going to be a little more family friendly and their excursion opportunities. Alaska tends to have more adventurous excursions and a little more physically taxing. The Mediterranean is going to have more food and beverage focused excursions, and you're not going to find many chicken nuggets and mac and cheese opportunities.
Right, right. Now, do you have any tips on traveling with young children? Just like big general tips?
Yeah, I mean, so the big things for me, we've been traveling with our kids since the twins were 6 months old. Um, the big thing for me is to bring something familiar for them, try to keep them on their schedule as much as possible, even if it's just meal times and bedtimes. Um, and be flexible. Be willing to change your plans at the last minute, because they kind of are the tiny dictator of the family, and they are going to determine what happens and when.
A little screaming and a little crying.
Yeah. And that's fine, because that's what they do. That's how they tell you how they're feeling. But if you try to force it and make them have fun, I mean, how many of us heard that when we were kids? You're gonna have fun. We're
Oh,
gonna do this. Yeah, right. We spent all this money. You better have a good time. It's not going to be fun for anybody.
right, right. Forced fun, it never seems to work out.
So under schedule and just be prepared to pivot.
Yeah. And do you have any tips on how to pack effectively for the whole family, including little kids? Like, are there any big things that you need to bring?
Um, I the less you bring, the better, because it's fewer things that you have the opportunity to lose. There's nothing worse than losing something that's precious to your child in a foreign country, because they're never going to see that again, sadly.
Mm.
Um, I would say if you can pack one big suitcase for everybody, then that's a great way to do it. But if your kids are old enough to pull their own suitcase, then pack their stuff in their suitcase, because they're going to be pulling that weight and it's going to slow them down a little. So especially going through the airport when you're, trying to keep up with them and you're trying to keep them from getting away from you, if they're pulling their suitcase, they're going to be focused on that and it's going to slow them down a little bit. At least that's been my experience with my kids. They all schlepped their own stuff, had their own backpack. It made them feel important and it kept them in my bubble so that I didn't have to worry about them.
Oh, that's smart. I think that's a great tip on just not bringing something that's so special, especially if little kids have it because they leave it. I remember leaving my goodnight moon in like the hotel in Mexico and I got wrapped up in the sheets and sent down to the, dryers and oh boy, but hey, this is very rare. I would never bring it. I never brought it again on a trip because my dad would have murdered me if I did, but we we literally had to go back to that hotel because I was just dying. Like I was just physically dying. You know how little kids are when they lose like a stuffy or and we had to go back and the housekeeping had found it and it was nice and clean because it
Oh,
got clean and they gave it back. But yes, long story short, never brought, favorite stuffy animal on a trip again.
and I think that we've all made that mistake once. I did it once with one of mine. We lost his stuffy when he was 4. But
Hmm.
like you, we were lucky enough that it was found in a garbage can of all places. Like, who throws away something like that? Find it
Aw.
on the ground, you throw it away. I mean, granted, it did look pretty rough at that point because he had slept with it every night since he was like 10 months old. But yeah, it's
Aw, that's how
you
those
learn.
little stuffies get. I remember sewing Goodnight Moon's head back on.
Yep. Somewhere, someplace, that puppy is in a box because it was falling apart.
Oh, that's cute. And do you have any tips on, how to just save a little money on family vacations? Because I know that, when you bring, Sally and Johnny and, Candy, like 3 or 4 kids, it really seems to add up quickly, versus when it's just you and your husband or you and a friend.
Yeah. We are a family of 5 at home now. We have 6 kids total, but 3 still at home. And yeah, it's a lot. It adds up fast. So, being flexible with where you stay, accommodations is one way. There's a lot of hotels now that offer family suites, and that's a great option. I'm a big fan of if you're looking at domestic, like just a staycation or a road trip, the Drury Inns are great because they offer like a happy hour with mac and cheese and such and breakfast. So then you have 2 little
Ooh.
meals included. And they offer these 2 bedroom or 2 room suites so that the kids have kind of their own area to sleep in. Um, as far as like all inclusives go, you can watch for promotions where like third and fourth guests travel for free, or airfare is free on a certain guest, or on cruises. I know I've spoken about Royal Caribbean's Kids Sail Free promo, where if you have kids under the age of 11, that's the magic number, then they get to sail for free. You just pay taxes and port fees. Um, at Disney, we look for, I know our first couple of trips, we traveled during a dining promo window so that I didn't have to pay for food on top of everything else. So we paid for our hotel and our tickets, and our dining plan was included. So we had a sit down meal and a quick service meal and a couple of snacks every day for each of us. So there's ways to help, but yeah, it can feel overwhelming and really pricey if you don't have someone to help you navigate that world.
Right, right. And now I'm super excited because I want to transition into talking about traveling with autistic kids. I do not know much about autism, but I think this is such a great point because I love how you advocate for this. You help your clients with this. You have an autistic child, and I don't want people to feel like they can't travel with their autistic child. So I'm super excited. I'm going to start with the basics. What is a CATP?
So, CATP is Certified Autism Travel Professional. It's the international board that certifies for ABA, which is Applied Behavioral Analysis. And they added this as a designation for travel agents to show that we have training in um, how to help families with autistic children. Now, I have, like you said, the added bonus of being a parent to 3 boys that are on the spectrum, including my 11-year-old who has, severe autism. So, this is something that really hits home for me and has become almost a mission for me in my business because, like you said, there's um, a large percentage of the community of families with neurodivergent kids that don't feel like they can travel, and it's a stressful, overwhelming life to live, and we love our kids dearly, and we advocate for them daily, and a lot of us, like me, don't get a lot of sleep because they don't sleep.
Mhm.
So, travel can seem like one of those things that's a Mount Everest, you're just not even gonna attempt to climb it. But I think that it's extremely important, maybe more so for families like ours to get a break, to take that trip, to push the boundaries a little, uh,
Mhm.
because you don't know what their tolerance is going to be for something unless you try.
Right.
Um, and there's programs all across the board that are there to help with taking that step and just trying, seeing what happens.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's great. And how would you say that you typically prepare your children for the changes in routine during travel?
So there's certain things that you can do to, prep them, and then there's also things that you prepare yourself for so that when you're in travel, you can, avoid as much as possible a meltdown or a chaotic event, as I like to call them. So beforehand, I'm very big on visual stories. Social stories are huge in our life, and that's just going through step by step and explaining with pictures and words what's going to happen. Um, I think that that gives the child or the adult an opportunity to prepare themselves. I mean, I know I don't like going to a situation without knowing what's going to happen. It's
Mhm.
unnerving for me, and it's more so for them, and they don't like to be outside of their routine. So, um, giving them a social story is a great way to prep them for what's to come. We like to have visual schedules. And I will make picture cards for each thing that we're going to do. And then, there's I don't have it in here. It's kind of like a binder cover that has Velcro strips on it, and you put the schedule on that board so that they know what's going to happen throughout the day. And you can get picture schedules that are Disney specific. You can get them cruise specific, and I can help provide all of that to my clients when they need it. Um, and then making sure that they have something that's familiar to them. My son does not travel anywhere without his blankie. And we talked about those precious things. So we have 2 dozen of those blankies, the
That's so
exact
smart.
same blanket. They all get washed together. And when we're home, they're all in one ball because then they all smell the same. They're all worn the same. And when we travel, we take one. And then he uses that as a muslin blanket. He can cover his head if he gets overstimulated visually. And at night, when he goes to bed, he has something that smells and reminds him of home.
Oh, that's great.
So, those are, I mean, little things like that that you learn as you go help on the front end. When you're in travel, um, in the morning, like with little kids, keeping them on that same schedule with meals, bringing snacks that you know they're going to eat. Diet's restricted with a lot of these kids. My son eats maybe 5 different foods. So I don't take him into some place that I know he's not going to find something to eat. Macaroni and cheese is one of those 5 foods. So if I'm going somewhere, if you're going to travel, then we find the restaurants in that neighborhood by where you're staying. And I'm looking at the menus and I'm looking to see who has mac and cheese. And I'm making a list of those restaurants. And I know that's where we're going to be able to feed him.
Mhm.
So it's all about preparation. It's all about preparation. And if you go into it prepared, then you will be able to enjoy more.
Right.
Now,
Yeah,
is it
wow.
easy? Like, especially I tell I was just talking to somebody yesterday who was planning a family vacation, and she's like, "I just it's exhausting. It's exhausting to travel with kids." And I'm like, "Don't think of it as a vacation. Think of it like parenting in a different location."
Right. Right, because you can't not parent. If you're
Right.
bringing your kids, you gotta it's work.
Just a different spot that you're doing it, and it's prettier and it may have better weather. So there's your silver lining when it comes to like relaxation. Now, cruises are where families like ours have an opportunity to really get a break. Um,
Mm,
and that's, I think, part of why we have become such a cruising family because we don't have family near us here in Florida. So we are on 24/7, 365 with our kids. So when we get on the ship, especially the ones that we do the same ship and itinerary several times a year. Um, he's familiar with the kids club. He knows that when we get on a royal ship, he's going to Adventure Ocean. He knows we go there as soon as we get on board and we do our muster station, and then we go to Adventure Ocean and he gets to check out the layout, make sure nothing has changed, and hopefully it's the same crew. And then he's like, all right, cool, I'm good. And after dinner, he knows he's going for a couple of hours. And then my husband and I, we get to sit and enjoy a meal together, or we get to go to one of the bars and have a drink and actually have a conversation, or we get to go to a show and enjoy a show. It's a break for us. And that's the key for me is finding those little moments where a parent can take a break and breathe because we're in the trenches.
right, right. Well, that's an interesting point about the cruise lines being really helpful and just kind of being consistent with a routine and, your kids remember and know what they're gonna do. Now what cruise line was that again that you said was great with that?
So Royal Caribbean and Carnival are both great with special needs. Royal Caribbean is an autism certified program. All of their crew members have an education background, so they are, for the most part, going to be knowledgeable and have the patience that's necessary when you put a kid in a chaotic environment like that. Um, Carnival has a partnership with Culture City, where they provide sensory kits on board. You can go to guest services and get a bag, and it has headphones and fidgets and cards in it that give uh, different areas that are quiet spots on the ship. And their crew members, for the most part, are also going to be knowledgeable and kind. I mean, that's the big thing is just they're kind. They aren't doing this for any other reason. I mean, would you want to go deal with a different bunch of like 250 kids every week?
Right. No.
That's a like they they are a special kind of angel.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And they love the kids and they do these great activities, and they're always really receptive to hearing what my son needs or what any child needs. They will sit
Mm,
with you and they will make sure that they meet them where they are. Um, so that's been great as far as cruises go. Now, all inclusive, same things. They a lot of them have kids activities and kids clubs. Not all of them are created equal as far as accommodations go for special needs, but the beaches resorts in particular are another autism certified center. So they will be more prepared for caring for kids with autism and other neurological disabilities.
oh, that's great. So I didn't even know that, they could get certified like that. I think it's fantastic. And so on tips just for parents, say I was a parent of an autistic child and I literally was going on my first trip with them. And this may not be that different from, regular kids because regular kids have meltdowns. But do you have any tips for, parents taking their autistic kids on a trip? And, tips for meltdowns or just emotional distress while traveling?
The first thing and the most important thing is to focus on you and your kid. Don't worry about what somebody else is going to say. Don't worry about the staring. Don't worry about any comments because we've all heard and seen them. And
Mm,
they don't know and they don't, they are irrelevant. And it took me a long time to be able to internalize that. But I think it's really important that parents know that it doesn't matter what other people think. You
right.
know the child and you know what they need and what is going on. Um, we carry the blanket to put over the head to kind of disassociate visually, disconnect from whatever is going on. Headphones are a staple as well, noise canceling headphones. Sometimes you just have to leave, and that's okay. It's okay to step outside. It's okay to ask them to stop the bus. It's okay to say, we need to go back to the hotel. It's okay. You just have to meet them where they are. And that's where I think we excel as parents. It's a superpower in that ability to be flexible because it's a requirement. It's a requirement to survive is just be okay with them not being okay.
Mm,
Communicating. All of these meltdowns, it's just a form of communication. So recognizing their limits, and nobody knows their limits better than the parent, and being okay with saying, all right, we're not going to do this.
right. Right.
Now, if you find yourself in a bad situation, say you're on an excursion somewhere and you've overcommitted time wise and they've reached their limit, pull somebody aside, one of the guides, and let them know what's going on. We had this happen on one of our trips to Monkeyland where he was hot and overstimulated, and he started to not melt down, but get silly and physically kind of all over the place. And I was worried he was going to hurt himself or scare a monkey and get bit. So I took him to the guide and I said, we need to step out. Is there a safe place that we can go? And he walked us to a little break room behind their gift shop. And we
Great.
sat down there where it was quiet and dark and cool until he calmed down. So never be afraid to ask.
Right. Right. That's great. That's great advice. And I want to get a little more technical now and just ask, are there any specific travel documents or accommodations that parents should request for air travel with an autistic child?
Yes. So there is a program called TSA Cares, where you reach out to the airline, or not the airline, the airport beforehand, and you can receive accommodations that make getting through security easier. Um, it's less stressful than waiting in line, and the TSA agents then are prepared for you to be there. There's also a fantastic organization called the ARC, which runs a program called Wings for All, where at various airports throughout the country, you can look on their website and see they run programs where you can sign up to experience what it's like to go to the airport and go through security, and get on a plane. They don't fly you anywhere, but you go up to the check-in counter, you get your boarding pass, you go through security and that whole process. You walk to the gate, they call you, you get on the plane, and you experience what that is like. So that's fantastic for those that are a little more anxious, and have never been on a plane before, to give them that experience beforehand. And then you get an idea of whether or not this is going to be a viable option. Are we going to be able to fly?
Right. Right. Well, Erin, that's really, really interesting. I had learned so much today. I want to kind of close by just asking you about your featured trips. Could you tell us a little bit about the 2025 Greek Isles and Turkey and then Spring Break 2025?
Yeah. So next summer, I know I talked about taking my daughter to Paris. That's the precursor to our big summer 2025 trip. So we have a group that's going on Brilliance of the Seas, which is a Royal Caribbean ship. And we are embarking in Athens and going to Mykonos and Santorini and Ephesus and Istanbul. So we are cat people and we are super stoked to go to Greece and Turkey because those are cat countries.
Right.
So this is an 8-night sailing that we're doing, and we are doing pre and post on top of the cruise. So we have opportunity to explore in Athens after departure from the cruise. And beforehand, we are all staying at a hotel together and having a little fun before we get on the ship as well. So we're super excited about that. My daughter and I both are so excited. And then spring break 2025, we did we always cruise on spring break, and this spring break we are going on Carnival Mardi Gras. We have a group going on Carnival Mardi Gras, um, which sails out of Port Canaveral, and it's a 7-night cruise, and such a fun ship. We sailed on it for Christmas last year and had so much fun that we came home and we booked it for spring break this year. So we decided that we were going to do a group trip with this one. We have some friends with kiddos like our son who we want to kind of help them explore this world of sailing with an autistic child. And we thought, what better way to do it than, get away for spring break?
Oh, that's so fun, Erin. Wow. So, thank you again for coming on and for telling us all about everything. Travel Brats, if you haven't listened to our other two episodes, we introduce Erin, we talk about how well she's traveled. And on our second episode, we also talk about cruises versus all inclusives versus theme parks. And obviously, if you've tuned into this episode, we hope that you got some helpful tips on family travel and traveling with autistic kids. And if you guys are interested in getting Erin's input on your next trip, feel free to reach out to her. And Erin, are how do people sign up for your featured trips?
So you can find my featured trips on my website, which is erinmorgenthal.com. And you can also find them. I talk about them a lot on Instagram. My Instagram is Love of the Magic Erin. And you can always just send me an email at erinm@lotmv.com. And I am happy to help.
Well, thanks, Erin, so much. Have a great holiday season, and we will catch you guys on next Tuesday.